A very good evening to all our viewers and welcome to Wednesday's edition of the Evening Review. My name is Toiwan Jabela, your host. Tonight we are celebrating a milestone here at Namibian Media Holdings, where our in-house TV station NTV has turned a year. It was launched exactly on this day in 2022 rather, and today we have seen growth in the past 12 months. And to discuss that journey with me tonight on the show is Albe Botha. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Namibian Media Holdings. Chief, thank you very much for your time. It's very rare to have you here, but you know.
It's my first time.
It's your first time,
I'm
probably.
extremely honored to be on the show. I watched the intro and I played a critical role when we created that intro, and it was wonderful memories. So thank you for inviting me. I'm very honored to be here tonight.
Wonderful, thank you, Albe. Maybe just for starters, really, that journey, 12 months. I mean, it was like yesterday when there was this whole hype around these studios and our complex. So many people, very kind people, our stakeholders came through to witness that moment. 12 months later, here we are. How would you describe the journey?
It's been wow. It's really been a wonderful journey. And like all journeys, they have ups and their downs. But at the end of the day, even the downs have been wow. So yes, it's been a wonderful journey. It's with a journey that we've grown and we've learned so much more. So no, it's been a wonderful experience. I think what made it really wonderful is that we have this large team that we can work with to help us to make this dream come true.
Wonderful. What was the idea, for those not in the know? What was the whole idea behind establishing a TV station? I mean, everybody knows NMH owns Namibian Sun, Republican, Allgemeine Zeitung, and other smaller publications, very critical, but only smaller in size, really. But you know, evolving from print into this space of television.
So I think if you look at the media landscape, and this is not news, it's just reality, is that the concept of being in a specific medium is very much old school. And we've seen in the last 10 years how the communication has all become, we're all in the same space. Traditionally, some of us were in print, and some of us in television, and some were social media. But more and more on radio, more and more we're finding that we're all coming together. And it's really about the concept of a multimedia engagement. You know, we have audiences that some of us like reading our newspapers, like myself. Others like being more visually inclined. So where television or NTV comes in is that next step of visualization. We've been doing a lot of stuff on social media for many years now. I mean, Evening Review was on social media before it was on NTV, and it still has a very strong following on social media. But what television does is it brings a lot more structure to the strategy, and it sort of bonds. It's a bit like, you can bring out a newspaper whenever you want to, but if you have to do it every day, it brings a sense of urgency, consistency, and that's what NTV did for us. It brought a consistency to us as a group, but to our readers and viewers as well, that on a daily basis, we're visually inclined to share our stories. Research has shown people react to visual communication a lot stronger than they used to in the past. And I think ultimately it was technology, because technology allowed us to be a lot more cost effective. Without that, the cost of producing something on traditional satellite television was so high it was just not possible. And a very few privileged individuals or institutions could afford it. And with technology that we're using now, we were able to be cost effective in getting that message across.
Absolutely. And I suppose you just mentioned how the group NMH was very much invested in social media broadcasts. So is NTV sort of the strategy now to have a one-stop shop for all these productions to be, in one basket?
So ultimately, yes, that's it. From a visual perspective, as much as we have that absolute discipline, consistency, and creativity, because without creativity, you don't move forward. And how we handle print media, we took that concept and that same format, and we went on to online media with that same message, same format. What NTV does is it creates that consistency, creativity for television, but then taking it to social media. I mean, it's fair to say that the end game is digitalization, and it will all be on one platform. It's called digital television, digital communication. and that we'll smile that we still refer to things, traditional television or paper or radio. We'll all be on the same media. And TV is just part of that collective messaging. I think we've put ourselves in boxes many years ago because it made sense, but ultimately, whoever the communities are that we engage want to get a message. And some of us want to get it in paper format, but others want to be visually inclined. And I think NTV has really worked well for us in that regard. The cost of digitalization in terms of digital data, our country is very competitive. Give all the role players that play there a tap on the back. We can't, but it still costs a lot of money. Whereas on NTV, the cost is extremely low. So we get large volumes of sharing of information at a fraction of the cost that you would have to pay if you had to. I mean, I always smile when you look at the comments on social media. You know, this program is too long; it's eating up all my data. And we understand that. But when you're watching on television, there's no data to be eaten up. So short and sweet, sorted. But if you want to give a show like Evening Review, I've never done the maths, but I wonder what an Evening Review show costs in terms of data. And we've recognized that some of us have access to Wi-Fi and all the rest, but not all of us have that privilege. And I know self-television is sometimes a bit expensive, but it's not over time as expensive right now still. But over time you'll see that the cost of digitalization will come less and less, and then yes, we will wonder what television was in terms of satellite.
Absolutely. For the viewers, NTV is on DSTV channel 285, as well as GoTV channel 94. Check it out. It's an alternative, as the CEO here says, about saving data and everything associated with that. I spoke, Albe, earlier about how I remember very well last year how we were really graced by so many people, our advertisers, our partners in so many projects, to witness that occasion. But how would you describe the perception generally of the station since inception?
So I suppose, like anything you do, you got to find out, what differentiates you. It doesn't help you that you do what the next person does. Otherwise, it sort of cannibalizes the process, and that's not the intention. So from go one, there were three things that we wanted to focus on NTV. One is the stories on the community level. A second one, very important one, and that is that we are 100% Namibian content, and we're very proud of that. Because it allows those stories to really get across. We're not competing against the next Namibian institution, we're competing against the world. And there's serious competition out there. And then the third one was sports. We had been doing sports coverage now for about 6 years, but not at that level. I mean, last year, this financial year, we did over 500 hours of live sport coverage. Never done before. And it was just getting that positive message. I see the state president has comments about, we're just carrying the negative stories on the front page. Maybe sometimes the front page is designed for that, unfortunately. But if you look at a media group in terms of what is their total strategy, it has to be telling the good story. And sport is a good story to tell.
Absolutely.
And our country is and we're brilliant in what we're doing in sports. Doesn't matter whether it's from football to indoor hockey right now, to rugby in a couple of months' time. We are relatively to the size of our country. We play brilliant sports, and that's the national level. But when you move to the next level, it's also wow. And we saw that the value of that covering that sports has been wow to the communities, and that's been extremely positive. Yes, of course, everything comes with a debit and a credit. However, you've got to make sure that accounts balance, and sometimes it's a bit more difficult, especially if you're a new kid on the block. But if you look at our track record, it's wow. And I think that's why I'm so excited about the year that's coming.
Yeah, wonderful. We go for a quick break and then return for second half.
The Agenda is a weekly national affairs interview program hosted every Sunday by Namibian Sun editor Toyvon Jabela, featuring a panel of high-profile newsmakers, analysts, and experts. The Agenda aims to reach high-end news consumers seeking informed understanding of national issues. This show is broadcasted on NTV, 1up2.com, and the Namibia Media Holdings Facebook platform. The Agenda focuses on interviews where we put the nation in the hot seat. Contact Agenda at synergy.com.na to get your product and service in the hot seat. The Agenda, focused on today's conversation.
The show continues with Albe Botha here at on the evening review tonight. CEO, let's delve into sport a little bit. I think for me as a viewer, that has just been really mind blowing. It has been such a huge success. Live sport at all levels, not only national level, because a lot of times, we tend to just focus at the highest level, yes. But we've seen kids, the under 10s, under 15s, really being live on television. What is the strategy around that?
So first and foremost, when we said this is our strategy, there were a lot of misconceptions, maybe positive, about, our sport isn't organized enough for this. That's bullshit. Sorry, I'm swearing on television. Yeah. But I need to be very clear. Yeah. The administrators have been wow. It's been a wow experience how well organized we actually are as a country. And I think we're doing ourselves a lot of injustice in the past. So the administration of a sport code is critical. And when the administration is wow, we can do so much more. And that's been a wonderful experience. The bottom line of NTV is community television. It's about the community. And yes, the national team is part of the community, of course it is. But the under 10s and under 15s at local level as well. And I think that's been our strategy. It's not so much about under 10s and 15s, but more about covering local community television. And I think we've been very successful with that, because that's where you get the good stories. That's where communities start talking about the positives in the community. I mean, it's been difficult the last 3 years in our country, before even COVID. And so you've got to get those positive stories out. And when your national team does well, it's fine, but there's more than national teams. And the feedback, again, is being relevant to the communities. It's been a very successful stories. So there's a lot more we'd like to do. And yes, there is still politics in sport, and we've got to get through that. We haven't won all the battles, but I think people have seen that it's possible. And the reason why it's possible is because we understood technology well, and we understood being cost effective, because you can't cover the under 10s and 15s at a national television budget strategy. It's just not cost effective, and that's been part of the strategy.
Yeah. I suppose what will be on the minds of so many viewers, especially going forward, is NTV strategy around the Namibia Premier League. It is now kicked off, and I know that NMH did an extraordinary job during the transitional league that took place briefly last year before, I think, 2021, until COVID spoiled everything. And I think people are craving now to see more of that. What can you tell us about that?
We are as ready as can be. I'm waiting for the phone call. But again, I understand that that the whole process of just normalizing the soccer in the country has been quite a challenge. And there's a lot of processes behind that. And I give the team credit for how far they've come. But if I say I must be there tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock, I'll be there.
Yeah.
So we're very excited. We do believe that there's been an opportunity lost to an extent. There's been so many wild games that we could have covered. And yes, we wanted people physically to come to the events and watch them. It's not just about the Premier League, it's about all sports. Yeah. And that's part of our strategy. How do you build a hype so that people can go physically watch the sports, but at the same time recognizing not everybody can do that? And most importantly, is making sure that that concept of building the hype, even to watch the game, needs visual engagement, needs a brand like NTV to be part of telling that good story. If you have to ask someone, they give me all the stats on some English Premier League player, they'll go doof, 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 doof. You ask that same question on the Namibian club team, I don't even know he plays for that club. And therefore, people are not as interested in that because we're not peering it to the same level. We have a lot of time and energy, and I watch a lot of English Premier League as well, so I'm not against it. But then we wonder why they go where they go. So I think there's a misconception that when we do live sports, it's just about the broadcasting itself. Yeah. It's a lot more than that. It's the whole story before the time, of course the game itself, and afterwards. And that we're going to see a lot more this year. And we really want the Premier League to be part of that strategy. We're ready.
Absolutely. Very good news. Very good news to hear that, Albe. One of the things that NMH as a group has done exceptionally well in television and print is the emphasis on youth-driven content. We have My Zone dedicated strictly to, and what has been achieved through My Zone is incredible. And I know that the group also dedicated a lot of resources to youth, to educational materials during the height of COVID-19. Just again, what is this obsession, if I can call it that way, with youth content?
So for the record, let me be on national television, NTV, and I must be careful what I say now because I'm sure we're going to get a lot of CVs today. Yeah. But we sold out to the youth. I am extremely excited about the youth, the passion of the youth, the energy of the youth, the understanding of the youth of issues of the day. It's wow. The challenge is to give them opportunity. And of course, everything costs money, so you've got to make sure it makes financially sense. But this entire television channel is in essence run by the youth. I'm trying to think, except for you and me, Toru, and some other presenters, just about everybody's under 30. This is actually a youth television channel. Everybody that runs it is under 30, and that energy that comes out of that is just wow. Yes, we all make mistakes, and yes, we all got to learn still, and wisdom does have value, don't get me wrong. But the energy that comes against that potential mistake is just not comparable. Yeah. So I am extremely excited about the youth in general. We saw with the Zone program what we've all been able to achieve. The education program has been wow. So we as an NMH group, but as a country, you know, how do we create more and more opportunities, and not just in talk, but in practical job creation? We totally sold out to that.
Absolutely. As we head towards the end of this exciting conversation, Albe, what is the long-term strategic plan around particularly NTV? I think in terms of anything else, NMH did not become the largest privately owned media house in the country were it not for all this effort and plans and the vision that people like yourself have had. But in terms of this new baby, this exciting new baby called NTV, what can we look forward to?
So I think I always smile. You know, we had independence in 1990 because someone defined our boundaries in 1885 to be as it is. And I'm not going to go back to 1885 today. But I think social media, the internet, and everything that goes with that has quite not defined the world like that. So the fact that we have boundaries is the reality of our geography, but it's not the reality of media. So if you take something like NTV or anything that we do, is to understand that we are focusing on beyond borders. This is part of our strategy. And of course, we're not going to be the world, but our world. And our world is much bigger than the Orange River or the Zambezi River or the Kunini River. And I think when you start defining things like that, then you understand that the boundaries for NTV is much bigger than just the boundaries of Namibia. And that's why we deliberately are called network television, not Namibia television. Because we're defining a world to be much bigger than Namibia. Namibia is a wonderful country, and it's my home country, and I'm very proud to be Namibian. But as Namibians, we can do so much more. And what we've been able to achieve with NTV in terms of engaging communities, we can duplicate this in much bigger spaces than just this country. And that is, in essence, my vision. You can get technical about specific programs, strategies, engagements, but in bigger scheme of things, beyond borders.
Yeah. The final question, I suppose, then, to you, Albe, is the excitement that comes. Of course, it comes with a lot of challenges, but the excitement that comes with telling the Namibian story, at your level as a chief executive officer of this group, and you see all these platforms that we own by the hour, on the hour, telling the Namibian story. Of course, some of it perhaps depressing, as the president said, but it's a Namibian story nevertheless. Just how committed are you to that cause of telling the Namibian story timelessly and fairly and correctly, and just a perspective on that?
So three things, and first and foremost, whatever that Namibian story is, it's fair to say you can't do it on your own. So in the name of NTV, we would not be where we are without the support of MultiChoice Namibia, and by name Mr. Roger Gertse. And I'm using that as an example. So when you tell the Namibian story, you've got to make sure you have a lot of partners with you. You work with a lot of people to make it happen. I think that's the first important point. The second one is that you've got to make sure that you are as neutral as possible, financially independent, politically independent, and that when you have your views, that it's not the only view. I think, we all define that whatever my view is the right view, it's not true, and whatever your view is not true. So that the diversification of views, whether it's across political spectrum, whether it's across political between age groups, sometimes even in terms of financial means, that's a critical part, and you've got to make sure that you speak to all those audiences, because how you speak to audience X and Y is not the same. So there is not just one view. And I think that's an important principle. There are different views, and you've got to make sure you reflect all those views. And then for society to decide which one of those views fits their understanding the best. We unfortunately are individuals of my understanding, and that's how we put together. But I think thirdly and most importantly is being creative. How you tell the story, and it's the truth that you've got to talk, but how you go about it, whether it's visualization, whether it's animation, there are different ways of telling that same story. And I think that's also a critical part, because otherwise people are very competitive in terms of where else they can go. And you are competing against the world. When you're in the space of digitalization, you don't have I have the TV rights of this country, no one else can come in here. I smiled when we watched the Soccer World Cup end of last year. It was a nightmare managing those TV rights. Yeah. And that's just, I think, the last time you're going to see it, because it just gets so complicated. The digitalization of the world has made it so difficult for people just to protect their territories. And so how you operate in this world is our biggest challenge. And therefore, as Namibians, our competitors included, how we work together is key. Because we're not competing against each other, we're competing against the world.
Absolutely.
And I think that's maybe the biggest lesson I'd like to share as a true Namibian is how do we work together as all Namibians, because we're a small country, with open economy. It's tough, and it's not just a media statement I'm making. This is from Kuka Shop number 5 to Shubin number 4 to retailer number 5. We're competing against the world, and we've got to work together more as Namibians to protect. Without, I'm a global person, don't get me wrong, but without closing just the borders, we can't do that. But protecting each other, and how you do that is very simple. Yeah. Tell the Namibian story.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure having you on the platform tonight. That was Albe Botha. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Namibia Media Holdings, filling us on the 12-month journey of NTV, which is on DSTV channel 285, as well as GoTV channel 94. A journey that has been very, very wonderful so far, as per the story told by Albe Botha here tonight. Thank you for watching, and good night.